Yes, welcome to the Dice Tower. I'm Tom Vasel, and this is my co-host Holly. And now, excitement is here because we are in the top 10 games. Today I'll be talking about just 4 games. I want to break this up into 3 sessions to talk about 10 through 7, and then 6 through 4, and then numbers 1, 2, and 3. But these games are great. Now, 2 of the games in my top 10, numbers 10 and 9, are new games from last year, and so it's kind of odd that a new game makes it so high on the list, but they're games that I really enjoy. The games that I'm talking about today are very different from each other, but, oh, come on, introductions are boring. Let's just look at the games. Number 10, Race for the Galaxy. Now, this is a new space game. Space theme automatically has me interested, and it's almost a little disappointing. Here's the rules, girly. It's almost disappointing that the game itself is basically a deck of cards. See this box? Deck of cards, some tokens. Now, that's kind of a negative thing there. That's a lot of money to be spending on just a deck of cards. But this game takes the aspect of using cards for multiple things, whether they be planets, used for money, used for resources, and it works well. What I find amazing about this game, about Race for the Galaxy, is that the game can take 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and it feels like you've played a long, involved game. The interaction of it's low, as many people have said, although a future expansion is supposed to fix that, and if that future expansion adds more interaction, you'll see this in my top 10 next year, too. But I just find myself playing it time and time and time again. I like the space theme. I like the artwork. But what I really like is the fact that I'm taking cards and using them for many different ways, and every time I play, I use a different strategy. And every strategy that you use has a possibility of winning the game. It's very, very balanced. One of the most balanced games I've ever seen. Very impressive game. So Race for the Galaxy is my number 10. New game, and so is number 9. Now, number 9 is probably not going to be a shocker to many people in a sense because I've mentioned it on the Dice Tower itself, and also it's become one of the biggest and most famous games on Board Game Geek, number 1 actually, and that's because my number 1 game is Agricola. Agricola is a game about farming. Really, really boring, right? Oh, just a boring theme, but it's really much more fun than that. The game comes with a pile of components. I've upgraded mine. I actually have little bricks for the bricks. I put stickers on some of my tiles that I printed off from Board Game Geek. I've added wooden blocks for the wood. I added, well, it comes to animeeples. I added a little people guy for the start player token, and a pile of nice glass rocks for the rocks, and all that, especially with tons and tons of cards. A worker placement game, and if you've been watching this top 10 list, you know that worker placement is something I really, really enjoy. It just comes together so well. Every single game is different. Every game, knowing which cards to play, when to play them, which spot to take, the game just is, it's just so fulfilling. And I constantly find myself wanting to play it. There are many games like Goa and Power Grid, and these are excellent Euro games. Games that I can play over and over again. Games that I can play over and over again, just with multiple strategies. But this one, I think, has almost infinite strategies just due to these cards. It almost gives the game a CCG feeling. Each player gets a few cards, 7 cards of each type, and you have to use those. There's a basic game, but there's also the advanced game, which I think is very fun. So, Agricola, a very good game. The second highest, I guess, Euro game on my list. But I would say that this is a Euro game that was directly influenced by Magic the Gathering, in a sense, with the cards. So that's my number 9, Agricola. Number 8. I keep inside these flannel boxes. Now, this is almost an advertisement for these boxes, but I really like these boxes. They have 3 different containers. Shh, okay, because people want to hear me. They like you singing, but I'm gonna talk, okay? There's 3 sections to these containers. The lid pops off the top like that, and then it can hold them. Now, in these, I have 2 decks of cards, and then on the side over here, I have some dice. But the game for this one is Battlegrounds Fantasy Warfare. No longer do I have to sit around and bemoan the fact that I can't paint, that I can't put together models, because this game takes that complaint away. Here I have 2 cards that when put together become a T-Rex. Here I have a squad of Trog Bowmen. And you can see Then on the card, on the very bottom, are a green, yellow, and red bar, and that is to mark off health. And all the stats are used on the cards. You need some dice, and the combat system is very similar to your typical miniature system. Roll a hit, roll to wound. But there's a lot of other things that just make this excellent game. One of the reasons is you use the edge of the cards as the distance, how far people can move. The cards move around on the board. You use erasable markers to write on the card to mark off their hit points, to give them orders. So if I, for example, for these ancient dragons, I can put here C for close, and they will just go towards the nearest enemy. I no longer have to give them orders. They just automatically move there each turn. If I want to change their orders, I can do so, but I cannot control every unit in the army at one time or change all their orders, so I have to decide which orders I'm going to change. And I just find myself liking this game more and more and more. I've always liked miniature games somewhat, but the price, the people who I play against, and the painting, and all, just the whole, I guess it's the whole scene of miniatures never really did it for me. This does. And as you can see here, I have 8 boxes for these games. I have the Lizard Men, that's the army I was showing you, that's my favorite. And then there's the Ubenzi, there's the Wood Elves, there's the High Elves, there's the Goblin, there's the Undead, there's the Men, there's the Dwarves, and there's so much going on, and there's another expansion, Monsters and Mercenaries, which I can't wait to try that one out too. And just when you buy a deck of these cards, and you buy the reinforcement deck, you buy 2 decks, you have thousands of points, tons of armies that you can make. You don't have to go hunt them down. You don't have to worry about them. The armies are ready, playable in a box, and it's just a lot of fun. Like I said, this is one of the cheapest games you'll find for the amount of fun that you'll get from it. And so my number 8 is Battleground Fantasy Warfare, a very good game. Completely different than the other games I mentioned. Agricola and Race for the Galaxy, those can probably be called Euro games. Battleground is closer to a miniature game. My next game, number 7, is kind of a cross between an abstract strategy game with almost no luck and dungeons. And that's the game Dungeon Twister. I love this game. This is another 2-player game on my list. And here's the 3 to 4 player expansion, which is okay, but it seems best with 2 players. And then there's several other expansions inside these boxes. I have these boxes chock full. Rules, rules, rules. I'm making her day. Rules. And all kinds of pieces are in these things. All these different characters. Each person has 8 characters on their team. They will have these characters, and they're placing them on a randomized dungeon that is put together through different boards. And this dungeon, according to the name of the box, will be twisting as the game goes by. And you are using your people on your team to take out the people on the other team. You have 2 options. Get someone to the enemy's line. You don't have to fight them at all. Just get to their line, you get a point. Kill one of their people, you get a point. Get 5 points, you win. Sounds simple. There's no luck other than the initial placement of everything, and that's not necessarily luck. That's just where you put the things. But other than that, the combat is done. That's fine. And the combat system, using cards, it just works together really well. And every time a new set comes out with new abilities, and it's amazing to see how all these different creatures with their abilities work together. And there's a lot of pieces involved in the game, but not in the actual game itself. You're only going to be using 8 creatures at a time. And so I just find myself loving it because the combinations of teams I can make with 8 players are fun. But even when I got the basic game with just the original 8 people, I still thought it was a blast. I still thought it was fun. But adding in that variety, having someone who can rotate the sections backwards, having someone who needs 2 hits to kill, having someone who can heal, having wizards, having skeletons, having undead dragons, vampires, and I mean everything you can think of. And there's like 10 more expansions still on the way. Fantastic and fun. And fun is why I like games. So Dungeon Twister, fun, fun, and fun. I guess that's all we have. We have 6 more even greater games coming up. We'll talk about them soon. Until then, I'm Tom Vasel, and this is Holly.